it all starts with like top down, right? So having that team alignment, accountability, it gets you and everyone on your team to move in the same direction. And ultimately, what all of this does is it helps you to reach your company goals faster while saving you time and money.
Let me start introducing Amazing Newton. I mean, we have seen Newton on these kind of calls for so many times now, right? And it always excites me to see them then on the other side of the Zoom room. So who exactly is Amazing Newton Zheng? So he is the founder and managing director at ePropel Digital, where he helps businesses to generate more traffic and sales through organic marketing strategies. He also founded a federally registered nonprofit organization, Project 5K, which has been connecting students to volunteering opportunities for the past 10 years. I think that shows that he's pretty resilient and disciplined, right? So he does long-term things. Amazing. And Newton has a story of perseverance and resourcefulness, even when the odds are against him. When his family couldn't afford badminton training, Newton and his dad built a badminton court in their basement. Wow, so creative, Newton. I love it. Through extensive training and perseverance, Newton won titles as Canada's Junior National Champion and three-time Ontario Junior Provincial Champion in badminton. Woohoo! When Newton couldn't afford to pay for university, guess what's happening? He hustled his way to win 20 scholarships to pay for his university tuition. Wow, what a role model. Newton Zheng is humbled to be named as one of Canada's next 36 entrepreneurial leaders and be a recipient of the ClickFunnels 2 Club Award. Woohoo! His past work has been featured in an international book, the Globe and Mail newspaper, Rogers TV, and many, many more. Outside of work, Newton credits his faith to help him to keep on going even when things get tough. And his faith is a big part of his life today. He enjoys traveling and he has previously lived abroad in South America, Europe, and Asia. You can connect with Newton on LinkedIn, Instagram, and we can also share his email in a chat later on. Okay, everybody, put your hands together for Newton Zheng. The stage is yours. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you, Janine. Appreciate the intro. Love your energy, and yeah, you always bring so much to these calls and these communities. So thank you so much for that. That was a great intro. Hey, good to see everyone. If we haven't met, my name is Newton. I actually met Atena earlier this year at Funnel Hacking Live when we were both getting our 2 Comma Club awards on stage. And from talking to Atena, I was like, wow, like she's up to some great things in the AI space. She has a great vision. And I've also seen some of you in the community here. I've been in the AIpreneurs community for I think a month and a half now, and I would say like it's one of the most engaged communities that I've seen, and one of the most valuable communities that I've seen. Like where like everyone just giving. There's a ton of great resources that Atena and the team gives out. And so yeah, Atena asked me to come share a couple of things with you here today about scaling the team without micromanaging and about culture. So I'm happy to be here as well. So I'm gonna go ahead here and share my screen. But just before we dive in here, just out of curiosity, um, what type of businesses does everyone run? Like if you can type in the chat, that way I kind of get a good idea of what everyone does here. Okay, Mark does custom web development. Pete does coaching for execs. Nice. And a follow-up question is, how big is everyone's team? Like, is it like, are you like a solopreneur right now? Do you have a couple of team members, VAs? Like, how big is your total team right now? Just so I get a sense of where everyone is at. Okay, Jonathan says solopreneur. Pete says one. Mark, 10 designers, developers, techs. Nice, that's a bigger team. Nice. We got an interesting range here. And also we'll love to see all of your faces. So, for those of you who have videos up, if you're comfortable, we'll love to, see you all on video. It just helps me to see like who I'm talking to. So that always is helpful. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead here and share my screen here. So, hey, can everyone see my screen okay? Just give a thumbs up. Just
All
type yes in
good.
the chat if you can. Okay, cool, cool. All right, so I want this to be as actionable as possible. So like I would encourage all of you to definitely, take notes, like whether it's on a Google Doc or offline on a notebook. Um, and at the very top of your document, like write down top action item. All right. Like if there's anything here, like, my mentor always like to say that like information without implementation is useless, right? So if there's anything here, I want you to take some key takeaways that you can actually apply to your business, and you can apply these whether you're a solopreneur or whether you got a couple of team members as well. So at the top of your document, write down top key action item. All right, cool. And we'll be going through a lot of things today. So I put this whole presentation together here. And so during the presentation, I just ask that you stay on mute during this time and ask questions at the end. And during the presentation, I'll also share some stories of to illustrate some things that I learned along the way. And yeah, during this time, like I also want us to, stay engaged in the Zoom chat as well. So if you do have a question while I'm talking throughout the presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll make sure to come back to it at the end and we'll make sure to cover it all. If anything is resonating, feel free to type that into the chat as well. And so, yeah, type ready in the chat if that all sounds good. All right. Denise says ready, all
We're
caps. I
so
like it.
ready for you, Newton, and to take notes.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. All right. Pete, Mark, Jonathan, Benulis, Nicole, ready, 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 ready. Okay, awesome. Yeah, definitely want to see everyone engaging here in the Zoom chat. And with that, let's dive right in. All right, how to build a seven-figure team without losing your mind. All right, so appreciate Janine for the intro and just a bit about, I guess, bit of background. So I know Janine mentioned I'd received my 2 Comma Club on stage earlier this year. So yeah, it was nice to meet Russell Brunson and Todd on stage, who are the founders of ClickFunnels. And I would say like one unique thing about my journey is that it's definitely been a team effort, right? Like, I've been, working on my marketing agency full time for around 5 years now. We do everything from SEO to we've done like VA placements. I've coached marketing agencies. I've done a couple of things over the years. We're also in the process of launching like an AI thing right now. But I think one thing that makes the journey unique is that it's definitely been a team effort along the way. Like I have team members who have been with me for more than 4 years now. And I think in a work culture where a lot of people jump ship every like couple of months, I think that's pretty rare, especially in like the internet marketing space. And I was able to scale my agency without having to micromanage everyone, and without having to work more hours there. And there's actually a fun fact is that for two years, I actually ran my marketing agency on as little as 5 hours a week because I had team members and systems and processes in place, and because I didn't have to micromanage, right? Like I had team members who did the various things, and that gave me a lot of time freedom and location freedom to also build other ventures and pursue other things at the time as well. And so yeah, outside of business, my Christian faith is a big part of my life. I strive to serve God and serve people in everything I do. And personally, I've traveled across, yeah, like I lived in Argentina, Texas, Germany, and Malaysia, to name a couple of places. So kind of lived a digital nomad life there a little bit. And so, yeah, with that, like I think that just gives you a bit of context about my experiences as I dive in here. And so, let me ask all of you this, like which team gets more done? All right. You got, the people on the left diagram where, they're all pointing in different directions. They're trying to move the boat in literally all sorts of different directions from upwards to left to right. Or On the right, where all team members they're moving in one direction and they're aligned. Like just type in the chat left or right. Which team gets more done? Awesome. Okay, everyone says right. That is exactly correct there. Um, awesome. Yeah, so the team that's aligned gets a lot more done, right? And so the key areas I want to tackle today is how to scale your team without micromanaging, and also talk about culture and talent retention as well. So what I found just from my experience as well as talking to other business owners is that um, as you grow your business, right, especially as you get towards seven figures, usually you're going to need more than one person and you're going to have more team members. And the bigger that your team grows, the more alignment is needed. All right, like typically the bottleneck that I see, especially from talking to other business owners, is that um, everyone has different interpretations of what the objective is. Like, let's say if the objective is to, get more clients, well, there's a many different ways of getting clients, right? Like different team members might have different tactics and things that they want to do. If it's getting client results, there's also a lot of things that could be done there, right? And so there's a saying from Henry Ford that says, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And so, personally for me, like I remember as my team started growing, I was like, wow, like, personally, I already have an endless to-do list for my business. There's always things to do. And as your team grows, they also have a whole bunch of things to do, right? But if there isn't alignment, everyone is just doing busy work, right? Like they seem like they're really busy and doing stuff, but everyone's moving in different directions. All right. So who can relate here? Like just type in the chat relatable if you have a never-ending to-do list in business. Pete says yes. Mark says never ending. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for engaging in the chat here. And so with this, like in order to scale without micromanaging, you want to take a top-down approach. And this method works whether you're one person or whether you're 10 people or whether you're 100 people. Okay, so how we do this is first you want to have accountability. So with me and my leadership team members, what we do to align things is at the start of each year, we have an annual meeting where we literally just lay out like, okay, there's a lot of things we could do, but what are like the 3 to 7 most important things that will actually move the needle forward for the business? All right. So, we talk about our long-term vision and we narrow it down into, okay, what can we do in the next year? And so what that already does is like, okay, like, we have a lot of things we could focus on, but which direction do we want to go? Right. And then we then break it down into quarterly meetings. So at the start of every quarter, right? We would also meet again and talk about what are our 3 to 7 most important things as a company for the next 90 days. And so what that does is, rather than having like a never-ending to-do list, right away you're already prioritizing what's important, right? So then, um, like that way, there's a pretty good analogy that someone shared with me, which is like, let's say you have like a bottle, right, or like a glass. A lot of people just fill it with like sand, which are like our endless to-do lists. But let's say, through the annual meeting, the quarterly meeting, you fill with these big rock pieces first. These are like your 3 to 7 most important things for the quarter. And then, you fill it with rocks, you fill it with pebbles, you then fill it with sand. Everything will still fit, all right? But if you fill it with sand first and then you try to fill in the rocks afterwards, it's not going to fit. And so that's exactly what the annual and quarterly meeting exercise does is that, it gets everyone aligned and have the most important things to focus on. All right. Now, there's also a study that shows that people can't focus for more than 90 days. So that's also why we have quarterly meetings to like align everyone and set new 90-day targets. So everyone on my team, we have a team of 7 right now, and everyone on the team has like 1 to 3 things that they focus on for the next 90 days. And those are like the rocks and the most important things that they focus on there. All right. And then from there, we then have weekly meetings to make sure that we're on track for those things, right? So we review the weekly KPIs, we solve issues, and we can break this down into meetings from different departments. So in my case, like that's on the sales side, on the lead generation side, as well as on the fulfillment side. And then for team members, we have end of day reports and end of week reports to update on progress. I find out in the beginning to keep my team members accountable, we had end of day reports. And then as time went on, we just make sure that everyone has at least like a end of week report so that we're on the right track here. Okay. And so the framework for annual and quarterly planning. So this is going to be a good resource for all of you that want to dive more into this. I would say for the annual and quarterly meeting, I can't take credit for this. It comes from Gino Wickman. We've been implementing his traction methods since 2020, and it's definitely been a game changer for our business. So if you're interested, then check out his book. In his book, Chapter 5 and Chapter 8, it goes through like all the details of the framework, like basically exactly step by step how to run those quarterly meetings, those annual meetings, those weekly meetings. So that's also pretty timely as we go into the next quarter pretty soon here as well. And so ultimately here, like as you have more team alignment and accountability, it becomes easier for you to reach your company targets and to hit your numbers because everyone is moving in the same direction. Like everyone's focusing on the same, company rocks, the same company priorities, and they're moving forward in the same direction here. Okay. Now, as my team grew and grew, we had different challenges and things that came up, right? So I remember there was a time in, I think it was fall 2023. So we scaled our marketing agency too quickly. We doubled the number of clients we had in a span of a month and a half. And I remember that our system started breaking down. We realized that we took on way too many clients than we had the capacity for, and then there were like communication breakdowns and different things as well. So then from that process, obviously we learned a lot. We unfortunately did lose some clients during that process as well. But we're like, hey, like we got to put some principles, some processes in place so that this doesn't happen again in the future. So on one side, we built some marketing systems, but on the other side, we also introduced what we call team non-negotiables, which is like basically what are our communication standards? What are the ways that we communicate tasks to different team members to ensure that things get done? Because otherwise, we found that when different team members have different preferences of doing things, like a lot of things get lost in communication, right? And so we already learned that the hard way. But then what I realized is that if I don't reinforce those key principles and concepts in team meetings, things will get forgotten over time, right? Like things will start slipping through the cracks. And so I remember, even last year, we started to stop doing some of the non-negotiables because I haven't talked about it in almost a year by that point. And so I noticed that things were starting to slip through the cracks again. And so what I learned is that like now during these team meetings with my team, whether it's on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, like I always try to talk about at least like one principle or a core concept, right? So this could be for us, this could be our team non-negotiables, which are like how we assign tasks, how fast we need to communicate. This could be our core values. So for example, we strive to create a company where everyone feels valued and are accepted. We're a growth oriented company where ideas are accepted and we're open to feedback, right? And also like a client first mindset, right? Like, we do everything that we can to ensure that clients are happy and get great results, right? So every meeting I try to go through like one of these concepts. And so if things are not revisited, things will get forgotten. So that was a lesson there. And over the years, like I was able to have my team members handle the daily operations. So I would say that this was a big part in removing myself from the day-to-day processes and freeing up a lot of my time. Because like, as a business owner, you want to work on the business, you don't want to work in the business. All right. So how I did this was every team member that I have, they basically own a different area of the business. Like they would take a certain process from start to finish. Whether it's client updates, whether it's, you know, keyword research for a certain aspect, whether it's, finding leads or a different aspect. Um, and then a rule of thumb that we have is like anything that is repeated, especially like, anything that takes a lot of time, it's like a weekly, monthly recurring thing. We always have standard operating procedures and we document everything that we do. So, that can be as simple as like creating like a Loom video and documenting how things are done, right? Now, as the team grew, I made this mistake in the beginning where I remember as my team grew past 5 people, I was micromanaging everyone because everyone was reporting directly to me. And personally, like I have a very high attention to detail, and I tend to nitpick over some things. And so when a team grew bigger and bigger, I realized that like it was harder for me to do all of that, and it actually took up more of my time because I was basically checking over every team member's work. So as our team grew past 5 people, what I did was I created like my first tier of middle managers, which are I call them team leads, and then they would then quality control the work of individual team members, right? So for example, I would have like an SEO lead that would quality control the work in our SEO department. I have like a lead generation team lead that would quality control the work in the lead generation department. Um, I have an account manager lead that would quality control the work of our account managers that meets with our clients. And so that helped to free up a lot of my time. And then what I would do is I would then just focus on coaching the team leads so that they can coach their department members. So then, if there's things that I want to get implemented across different team members and departments as a whole, I would just coach the team lead or announce it in the team. And then the team lead would implement all the different details there. So that helped a lot there as well. Um, and I think an example of, you know, not micromanaging here was I remember um, there was a period of time when I had two of my team members who were my core team members, and they were both moms and had their baby at around the same time. So they both went on maternity leave, and they were like really important team members. So they did a lot of things in the company, right? So when I used to micromanage the whole process, like, my mindset would have been like, hey, like, okay, like, all right, I gotta train someone else and hire someone else and, like look over the shoulders again, right? But then I was like, wait, hold on, Newton. There should be a better way to do this, right? There should be a way for me to do this without micromanaging. So I took a step back. And so what I did was I had these two team members to document the processes and things that they did. And I had them to reassign their core tasks to different team members. So some of them we were able to do internally in-house. And then we realized that, hey, like there's still a lot of these other tasks that we need additional help on. So we ended up um, bringing on like a new full-time contractor for like a certain period of time while they were on maternity leave. And the best part was like they took care of the whole process from hiring them. They posted a job post. They trained this new contractor once they were hired. The only part that I did was like I just took like the final round interview. I was like, hey, all right, between these top 2 to 3 candidates, here was the top one. And I just did like the culture fit process to make sure that they were like a good fit for our company as a whole. But like the beauty of that example was like I didn't have to do a lot in the process, right? Was like I think that would have been pretty different than how I used to think about things. So that helped to save a lot of time there. All right. So now before we move on here, just want to make sure that everyone's following here in the chat as well. So just type helpful in the chat if that's been helpful so far. And I just want to see where everyone is at. Okay, helpful, good reminders. Awesome, awesome. Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks, everyone. Alrighty. So now I know some of you have team members, some of you are just one person. But if you don't have multiple team members, just pretend that let's say, just hired your first team member and train them on a lot of things. But yeah, basically I want you to picture like picture you have like a top team member who, okay, if you're one person, picture that they're like basically like a clone of yourself that does a lot of the things that you do. Take it off your plate. If you have multiple team members, you can also picture this as well. Like think about all the things that they do for your business. Think about all the knowledge, all the know-how, everything that they learned, and through all the time working with you. Now, picture like what happens if that person leaves, right? That very important team member, they leave the business. Like what happens to your business revenues? What happens to your business operations? Like maybe you have to step in, you have to fill in the gaps in the meantime, which obviously takes up more of your time. Think about the hiring process, right? Like I know for some of my team members, like we had to go through more than 100 applications just to find the right person, right? And on top of finding and interviewing for the right person, you then got to train them on all the things to replace them. And these are all things that your previous team member already knows. It's a lot, right? Now, the good thing is that all of that could be prevented if you just keep that team member. And a lot of reasons actually really comes down to culture and the things that you do to retain your team members here. And I think this doesn't get talked about that much. I think a lot of people just focus on growing at all cost, but you also got to have ways to support that infrastructure and support that growth as well. So that's why I want to talk about team culture here. So just type culture if that all sounds good and you're excited to dive into the next part. All right, culture. Cool. So team churn is a killer of business growth. And there's a study that shows that the average time for a new hire to reach full productivity is 6 to 8 months. That's a lot of time. And I don't know about you, but time is money in business, right? We can't afford to wait that long, right? And so culture and retention really becomes important. And today, what I want us to focus on are the things outside of the obvious stuff. Like obviously, if you pay someone more, if you promote them, they're probably more likely to stay, right? But I want us to focus on things outside of compensation, advancement, and training because these are things that everyone can do regardless of your financial position. All right. And so, some people are wondering, when is a good time to work on team culture? I would say like the sweet spot is kind of like once your company passes like 3 to 5 team members. Like if you're just like, you and one other person, like I don't think you have to work on team culture that much yet. Um, but as your team grows bigger and bigger, this becomes really important, right? And if your team isn't at that size yet, that's okay. You can learn all of these things so that you don't make all my mistakes once you get to that point, and you can save a lot of time in the future, right? And so for my company, it was kind of interesting because I went full time into my marketing agency in 2020, right at the start of COVID. So we actually started off as a remote first business. Like we never had an office, and you know, I actually haven't met some of my team members yet, even until this day, right? Like some of my team members have been working for 4 years, but I have not met some of them in person yet. And I can say that like I do see my team members as some of my closest friends now, and I'm really proud to say that we've built a pretty strong remote team culture, which I think is also pretty hard to do given the remote work aspect as well. And so there's a couple of things that helps with team culture. So a big one is definitely recognition. So some of the things that we do here is every month we have like a team-wide meeting, and then we would have like a team member of the month, right? So everyone would nominate who the team member of the month should be. They say some nice things about them, and then we recognize them as a team member of the month in front of everyone. And I think the best part is like, it doesn't take a lot of effort, but it makes a big impact. Like, it really makes your team member feel like they're appreciated. Um, and it doesn't take a lot of time and financial costs either, right? Like it's free to do. It just takes a couple of minutes to do in a meeting. Um, in a weekly meeting, what we also do is like we have everyone pick like at least one other person to recognize for some of the good work that they have done in the meeting. So or like just throughout the week, and that way we just have a culture of like recognizing one another and showing appreciation. Um, because there's a saying that like maybe you might think that they've done a good job, but if you don't verbalize it, they might not know, right? And a good leadership philosophy I learned is to praise in public and give constructive feedback privately. Like I made a mistake in the past where, especially during that stage when like, we were like doubling our agency clients, a lot of things were breaking. I made a mistake of giving constructive feedback to different team members during a team meeting. And what that ended up doing was it really decreased team morale and they kind of got defensive and they didn't really apply the feedback anyways. So I realized that that wasn't really a good way to give feedback. So good leadership philosophy that I learned is throughout the process is you always want to like praise team members in public, as in like in team meetings, in your, we use Slack for communication, in your Slack communication channels. But when it comes to giving feedback, always give that privately one-on-one. So let's say, if I have a team member, like let's say John, who, isn't doing a good job in something, like rather than calling him out during the meeting, I would be like, hey, John, like, are you free to chat one-on-one right after this meeting? And then from there, I would then tell him the feedback, and then that would be received way better. He or she wouldn't get defensive about things, and he would like they would actually implement the feedback that I suggested, right? So that was a big learning lesson there through that process. All right, so here's an example of how we do like team member of the month. So we would have like a photo of them, and we would have like some things that team members say about them. So just for confidentiality, I blurred out my team member's name. But for example, let's say for this team member of the month, she is always looking for new ways and strategies to better help our clients. She is a hardworking and dedicated person. Even though she doesn't talk much about her efforts, her work makes a big difference. She's dependable and always willing to help, even behind the scenes. So I think when you give recognition, also like don't make it generic. Like, it's easy to say good job and all like, well done, but try to be specific and like highlight certain areas or certain character traits that you really like and also sets a standard for other team members because other team members will be like, wow, okay, like, she has these traits, like, I'll also like try to embody these traits as well. All right. Now, I'll tell you another story, which is, I've worked with a lot of team members over the years, and it's always interesting because like there's like certain times when I would have like this like A+ team member, like they would start off with a bang, they do an amazing job, and then just all of a sudden their performance like drops off like a cliff, right? They would then have like C-level performance, D-level performance, and I would be like, hey, like what happened, right? Like, you know, like why did it all suddenly drop? And at first, like I would be like, okay, like is it because it didn't give like some feedback or training? But then I realized that a lot of times it actually could be because of a personal reason, right? It actually could be because of a personal reason that's not work related. All right. So that's when I learned that it's important to check in like with team members one-on-one to go through things outside of work. All right. So for me, like, when I check in with my team members one-on-one, I would go through, I would ask about the family, I would ask about relationships, I would ask about the health, I would ask about the sleep, the emotional well-being, and I would just give them space to share, right? So I understand what they are going through. Um, and then, see like what's the best way that I can support them in the process or maybe adapt their workload, right? Um, I'll give an example, right? Like, one of my team members, we created a space that everyone's like comfortable with sharing things. So like, one of my team members, her baby has to go to the hospital tomorrow. So then I adjusted her tasks and schedule so that she doesn't have to work tomorrow. And she could take the time off to take care of her baby, right? Because obviously that's been heavily on her mind and that's going to take up a lot of her headspace if that's not dealt with, right? So like I think understanding this goes a long way, and also it makes your team members feel that you actually care about them. Like they're not just like a number in your business, but they're actually someone that you genuinely care about. And it's through these type of conversations, being vulnerable, sharing these things that actually brought us closer together during these times, and also helped us to work through the personal things that they're working through as well. So that was a big learning lesson there as well. And right now, we're a team of 7, and I want to share a couple of like just kind of rapid fire best practices that we do as a team. So So obviously we're a remote company. We have team members, in North America and in Asia, like kind of all over the place. Um, and while it's hard to meet everyone in person, we do have some team members who are in the same city. So every year we have at least like one in-person meetup for team members in the same city. So for example, I have some team members in Toronto. So every year, I would take them all out to like a nice meal. And some of them like basketball and NBA. So I would take them out to like a basketball game and pay for the tickets. And it's like pretty small things and it doesn't cost that much, but it just shows that like you care and you value the relationship even outside of work as well. So every year we do that. Um, and then one of my team members actually started this. I didn't realize how big of an impact it had until I received one myself. But basically, for every team member's birthday, we started creating birthday videos and birthday slides to celebrate the birthday. So like they would find a bunch of their photos on social media, put it together in like a collage, and we would like have different team members like, say a few words or write a few words on things that they appreciate about that person. And it just makes that person feel like they're valued and are appreciated. And like it actually goes a much longer way than any materialistic gift because like people don't usually receive birthday videos or slides and it really makes it memorable for their birthday. So that's been a big one for our team, and as the team grew, instead of me creating it, I would just have like one dedicated team member do this for everyone's birthdays. And so then we have a process in place for that, right? So this is kind of an example of like literally my team member made a 6 minute and a half video for this team member's birthday and got a bunch of their photos together for that, right? Um, so that was really helpful as well. Now, every month, what we do as a team of 7 is we have an all-team meeting where everyone comes together and like again praise in public, right? So that's why we celebrate wins like together on the call. Like we share like okay, like here's wins for our clients, here's wins for our company, here's wins and just different things that we're working on. Here's our team member of the month. We also share that on the call as well. And then after that, then we share, if there's any company updates, if there's any key concepts that I need to remind them of. And then I always like to have like some sort of team activity to just like help bring people close together. So we have like a team bonding activity on these Zoom calls as well. And then from there, every month, we also pair everyone up into one-on-one virtual coffee chats. And the specific thing is that they have to talk for 30 to 60 minutes about a non-work related activity. And it usually has to be a coffee with someone who is not in the department that they work with. So it gives them a chance to get to know people outside of their department. And now keep in mind that we're a remote only company, right? So, if our company was in person, you would have water cooler conversations, maybe during lunch, people would get together and have lunch together, right? We're a remote company where there's up to a 14-hour time difference between our team members. So obviously things like that are not possible, right? So that's why we have coffee chats virtually to still facilitate some of that and to still create some sort of those connections, right? Um, and then personal one-on-ones, I already mentioned this. This is like those one-on-ones that like check in on different team members to see how they're personally doing. And then, to encourage everyone, after the coffee chats, I have them like share like some things that they learn about each other during the coffee chat and share on Slack. So it just like overall like adds to like the team culture and makes everyone feel a lot more connected as well. And then as the team grew, like I also encourage team members to like basically start their own like team-led initiatives, right? Because like I also have other things to work on in the business, right? But one of our core values is growth, right? Like if you have an idea, like I want you to take ownership and implement it, right? Like let's turn that from an idea to reality. So for example, like one of my team members was like, hey, the theme of like wellness is really important, like personal well-being. We also have a lot of team members who are people of faith as well. So that's like also like a common theme. So then she was like, hey, like let's start a monthly virtual team meeting where we talk about personal well-being and faith. And then she took that from start to reality, created a whole structure, and that creates like another opportunity for team members to grow close together and to grow our team culture remotely, right? And all of this is done without me being there, right? So that has been really helpful as well. We have a lot of moms on our team, so other areas could include like parenting, right? We have some team members who are trying to work on their health and lose weight, so some of them will like message each other and hold each other accountable, like, hey, like let's make sure that we do this workout or go on this walk to lose weight, right? So then this starts to create like more of like a ripple effect of community across our team members, and they see each other more than just coworkers. They see each other as friends and we consider each other as family, right? All right. And so as the team grew, I'm sure all we can relate to this, right? Like just type in the chat, um, type, okay, typed in the chat if you've ever worked with another team member, it could be at a previous workplace or it could be a client that just like thinks and does things completely differently than how you do, right? Just type me if you can relate to that in the chat. Hey, me. Awesome. So I learned this as I started to hire different team members. I remember, my account manager. So I brought on my first account manager because our agency was growing with clients, and the client meetings was taking up a lot of my time. So I hired my first account manager to meet with clients to lead marketing strategy for the campaigns and to delegate tasks to the team, right? And I remember like, hey, like I remember thinking like, hey, like he's always really good with meeting with clients. He always builds a client relationship really well. He always like has a really good vision for like the marketing campaign as a whole. But like, how come when I ask him to like break it down into like 10 steps or different steps for the team, he doesn't do a good job at that. And it left me like wondering for a while. I was trying to figure out like what's happening, right? And then I realized that like it was just because we're different in terms of like you know like a visionary versus an integrator. So basically there's a concept called a visionary and integrator where visionaries like they kind of think more like high level um, of the vision as a whole, whereas like integrators they're really good at the details but they need like a visionary to guide them. So then once he took the visionary integrator test, I was like, okay, he scored 90 out of 100 on visionary and he scored 50 out of 100 on integrator. So then I realized like, okay, he's really good at vision for the marketing campaign, but he needs an integrator to support him. Otherwise, things won't get done on a team. So what did I do? I paired him up with someone who is high on the integrator scale with him and someone that also complemented his Myers-Briggs personality. And then that was when the business fulfillment side like exploded. Like all of a sudden like a lot more things started getting done. Like they just really understood each other and complement each other and they needed one another. And so as you grow your team, it helps to do some of these assessments so that you understand how your team members operate and think, right? Because ultimately, all of us are created differently, right? All of us, have different traits, different personalities, right? And it's the same thing in a workplace, right? This could also be like, for example, one thing that I started doing more in onboarding meetings with my team members is like I would ask about the communication preferences just from the very beginning. I would try to figure out if they're more of like a visual learner or like if they like Loom videos or if they just want everything on like a Google Doc, right? And once I know the preferences, that helps me to understand like what type of resources would help them to get trained up faster. And that's like a win-win, right? Because you as a business owner want your new team members to get up to speed as fast as possible, and they also want to make sure that they do a good job and stay with you as a company, right? So understanding these things helps a lot to bring the most out of different team members. So over the years, we have a lot of team channels, but here's like 4 that really stuck over the years and has helped us a lot with our culture here. So number 1, we have a team celebrations chat. So This is a place where team members could like shout out like a team member, even for small things. Like let's say, hey, like, this team member did a great job. She went above and beyond for this particular client by doing this thing, right? This could be a client win. So for example, if it's marketing related, like, hey, like we just reached, #1 on Google for this client, or like, hey, like, we just coached this marketing agency client and they closed X amount in sales, right? So things like that, we share that in a team celebration chat, and that keeps morale pretty high as a whole. We have a chat for encouragement and prayers. So this just gives everyone an outlet to just like share what they're going through personally. So, this could be like a relationship conflict, a personal circumstance. I mentioned the team member that had their, the baby's going to the hospital tomorrow. So for example, that was shared in the chat today, and they were like, hey, like, could you pray over so-and-so as well as their family? And then, sometimes like, we would pray over them. Sometimes we would send them like a Bible verse or some sort of resource that would support them in the process. So that gives us like a chance to support each other even outside of meetings. Fun and Hangouts is a pretty fun channel. It helps you to get to know your team members outside of work. So things like what they did over the weekend. So people would share, you know, activities they did with the kids, their families. People would share cooking recipes that they made, or like new, places that they traveled, right? So Fun and Hangouts gives like a nice dedicated channel for that. And then we also have a feedback channel, which gives anonymous feedback for the company and for certain team members as well. So I find that anonymous, like I kind of tested both of these, but I find that anonymous is when people actually give like true feedback on things that you can work on. Because like if it's not anonymous, they kind of tend to shy away from giving like actual feedback. So we have a Slack integration with Office Vibe, which like automatically gives like anonymous feedback for team members to fill out every week. So that's helped us a lot to get feedback that we can implement for the company as a whole. And so I know I covered a lot here, but yeah, just a couple of like closing words here. So first of all, like as you grow your team, whether you're one person, whether you're 10 people, it all starts with like top down, right? So having that team alignment, accountability, having those clear like annual, quarterly targets, it gets you and everyone on your team to move in the same direction, right? And then from there, as you grow your team members, team culture and well-being becomes important to retain team members. And the good thing is that as your team grows, you can have different team members take ownership over certain things so that you don't have to manage these on your own. And ultimately, what all of this does is it helps you to reach your company goals faster while saving you time and money. Why? Because you get more out of your team members, because you all work closer together in the same direction, and you have less team churn. So you don't have to, spend 8 months training someone new, right? So all of these helps you to move in the right direction here. And so, yeah, I know I covered a lot here. I'm curious, what is everyone's key takeaways? Type into the chat. What's like one of your key takeaways from the talk today? I know I covered a lot here, but hopefully y'all are still following.
Wow, I loved it. Yes, everybody, please share your key takeaways now. And then I think after that, it's time for our Q&A session, right? We've covered
Yeah,
so many good tips. I took so many notes. Wow, really amazing the culture that you have built up.
thanks, Janine. All right, let's see what
Okay,
we
you
got
can
here in the
check.
chat.
Mhm.
Mark says, make team members take ownership of different parts of the business. Nicole says, team personality test. Dan says, special birthday something. Hey, nice. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. Awesome. Recognition. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you all for listening today. I know it's a lot of content, but I try to make this as valuable as possible. Like these are things that I wish I knew 5 years ago, because I learned a lot of these the hard way through making mistakes and, like, you know, doing things the hard way, right? So hopefully, like even if you're one person right now, you can carry some of these things with you in the future as you grow your team. And so yeah, hopefully that helps. And yeah, like feel free to connect with me afterwards. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and email. So my Instagram and LinkedIn is just my first name and last name. And then yeah, if you have any questions on the work side, feel free to email me at newton@epropel.ca. I'll also share this to the chat
That's a
as
good
well,
idea.
just so that everyone has that. And then, yeah, let's open it up to questions. I think there was some questions earlier here, so let me just scroll back up here. But if you do have a question, drop it in the chat. We got
Or you can
around,
unmute yourself even if you wanted to, right? We still have a couple more. Just make sure when you talk, please get to the point. And make sure if you have a question, you name the question so that the person would really understand it as well. Okay, does anyone of you have a question while Newton is checking the chat again? I think we're all super amazed by your company culture. I think some of you want to start working for you because it's that cool.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, did you want to go with Jonathan's question first?
Yeah, here, let's see. I think there was a question. Yeah, Jonathan, do you want to ask your question about the work sprints? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot what I asked there. Yeah, so I'm from a culture of kind of a tech culture, and think some of us in the group who are here would relate to some of this. So agile based work, where you have epics and sprints and Kanban boards and so on, and you have dedicated people that are helping to facilitate just those processes. So just kind of curious as to how much of that you'd adopted, but this was before we got into the real meat of this, and I could see how much of your faith was influencing the vision that you have for the feel of your company. And I really felt like what I was watching you describe was how to grow a family out of people that have come together. And that speaks to kind of how powerful your company can be, particularly if you can now see how it works and you can do it at scale. Then I think you can have incredible outcomes, and hopefully the culture will be contagious both to your clients and to other partners that work with you and other people who will be employed by the people that you currently employ at some time. So just huge hats off to you. I feel like you've modeled a real example of how you can make a difference in the world by being really what our faith asks us to be. So I feel privileged to have been here today.
Thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think people think that like work and faith and also just personal things are separate. But yeah, I think with the culture that we built, we've found ways to bring them together, without, creating conflicts and things as well. So it's ways to bring them together in harmony. I've also worked with people of different faiths over the years, so I don't discriminate. I think, yeah, people are all great. And yeah, to answer your question about the sprints of work, yeah, so we do follow the traction EOS model a lot more, but I guess you could think about it as like a 90-day sprint because people can't focus for more than 90 days, right? So in a way that gives them 90 days to sprint. Like they just need to focus on like these 2 to 3 things for the next 90 days. And that's always like the first thing that they work on, like during the first thing they do in a day, the deep work. And then everything else comes after that, right? So that way you get more done, and it's not just like your team is not just doing busy work. Yeah. So that's helped us a lot in the business, which is why we've been doing it for more than 5 years now. Yeah.
Newton, may I ask you to stop sharing your screen so we see your beautiful face on the full screen here while you're talking, right? Okay, hi, Ellen. I know you've just joined. You're asking about the replay. So usually we put the replay back online. So yes, you will definitely be able to see it. Do we have any other questions for Newton? Because I have a really big announcement I also got to make before people are dropping off.
Hello, can you hear me?
We hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, Newton. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. God is so good. Love your faith and how you're incorporating that in business. So my question is, I am coming into an agency, working, contract to a client. And my fear is that some of his employees that I'm supposed to work with may feel like overshadowed or intimidated. And there's not a clear distinction of like the roles, which I'm trying to work through. So I'm just really kind of concerned about, maybe I shouldn't be, I'm stepping out of faith, but I shouldn't be concerned about sabotage or people not really giving me the full scope and picture of every detail that I need to learn so that I can then go in and, as a visionary, as a strategic partner, figure out where the gaps are, because they may feel like it may highlight their deficiencies. So what's your advice for someone coming in to an agency with that kind of perception and fear or intimidation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nicole. Yeah, I think going into that type of environment, like I think first, like show them that you're on the same team. Like I always like to figure out what are the goals, what also personally motivates them as well. And then show like how like, hey, like by working together, we can do a lot more together rather than separate there. And so from like a work perspective, like that helps to like set the tone well, because like you're not there to like, because I think some people like feel like, oh, like when there's an agency coming in, they're coming in to replace me kind of thing, right? But like I think just reassuring them that, hey, like, you're there to help them and not to take the jobs. And then I think from sharing like, like faith and other parts about yourself, I think part of that you do have to kind of gauge I guess the context and situation. I think I don't try to force it. Like I think if they're like, hey, like Newton, there's something different about you that, I don't understand, like what is it, right? Then that kind of opens up the door to like talk about that, right? But I think besides that, I just try to like show through my actions. And a lot of times like that, it all creates a curiosity. Um, and in terms of like sharing things, I don't share everything personally right away, but especially if you're working with like a different team, you can kind of share like a little bit at a time, and then if they're receptive, then you can share more and more over the time, right? Obviously, for me and my team, we've been working together for like 4 years in some cases, so we've gotten pretty close and comfortable sharing those things, right? But obviously, in a newer environment, kind of taking it like one step at a time on that side. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder about teamwork. I got to focus on collaboration and teamwork instead of me being in my own little fear bubble, which then may impact, give off those vibes. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So while you guys are still thinking of some other questions, I just quickly want to show you, because Alan asked where he can find the replay. Let me quickly guide you here. So we are in our mastermind, AIpreneurs mastermind group, right? And if you go actually here on, sorry, let me go back, classroom, scroll down to all weekly replays. So for anything, oops, sorry, that is one of the many that I also did. So here, special masterclass, right? Just scroll down, you see all of the different kind of master classes that we do every week. So if you miss it, also you can find it on Atena's YouTube. If you miss a session with Goose on Skool, for example, or here, Facebook ads with Azriel, you can just all find it here. Hot Seat with Atena, for example. And I want to share something really exciting with you. You may have seen it in the community, because actually I think it's in 1.5 hours here, big announcement. Did you guys see it? So we're having a special session in 1.5 hours, starting from now, for anybody who has a little bit of Go High Level knowledge, and you feel like stuck with Go High Level. We have a special session with James Killick. So basically, yeah, this is the session. Where can you find it? You click on the calendar again. Here, well, sorry, this is my Shanghai time zone. So for you, it would be a little bit different. Yeah, here we have it. I definitely recommend you, for everybody who does use Go High Level, come and join us here with James Killick. He is the Go High Level expert for the AIpreneurs. So this is very, very new. And please, guys, take advantage that every week you can really like have hot seat coaching with Atena, right? Take advantage. Like, I mean, you've paid for it, right? Here, Skool launch and tech support with Goose. They made meta ads with Azrio. Yeah, now Go High Level support is super, super new. More implementations with James on like Zapier integrations, automations, and so on. Please take care of it. So I'll take advantage of it. Okay, let's see if we have any other Pete, you're funny. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah.
So
More
Bear
than
Nulis.
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
okay, sorry.
What did you
Go,
say,
he'll
Pete?
go first. He was more formal. I was just more than a question, so I'm gonna want to thank you, Newton, and say that when the way you were talking about your culture and the way you created this organization, I thought it could be a 50 or 100-person team. And when you said it was 7, it made me realize that 7 punching above their weight level, you know, and that with the culture you created, it could easily scale to 50 and 100 just by, you know, the kind of DNA you created. So good job. I took a lot of notes too. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate that. Yeah, means a lot.
Yeah. So Bear Nulis, you're up
That's a cool name,
next.
by the way. Is that the way to? Is that the right way to?
Thank you.
say it,
Thank you so
or-
much. Hello,
or what's the best?
everyone. Yes.
What's the best way to
Go
say
ahead.
your name? Is it
Oh, Benulis. Benulis. Benulis.
Benulis? That's an
Yeah,
awesome
I don't know
name.
if you've heard of the Benulis principle. So it's based off that. Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so
Love your
much,
engagement in the
Neutron.
community, by the way. I know you've been really active in the
Wow.
community, so shout out to
Wow. Speaking of recognition, yeah, wow, wow. Yeah, yeah. So thank you as well. I also want to take time to also thank you for the insights you're sharing with us, especially matters team culture. I feel it's something that lacks in a lot of companies, and a lot of people are more so demotivated just because their employers are not going that extra mile to appreciate them, yeah, and to have a boss, you know, a superior come in and tell you you're doing an amazing job, and even go further to specify areas where you are doing that good job is truly rare. So yeah, I've noticed in the many times I've been paired up with team members to work on a project, and we have a discovery call or maybe a session whereby we contribute our ideas. I've noticed, and I've noticed I tend to more so base my contribution or my decisions of egocentrism. What do I mean by that? When someone else gives an idea, I tend to more or less disremark them. I tend to see their idea as lesser to mine, yeah. Whereby I've shared out an idea and someone else has a completely different opinion, yeah. But then I don't take time to more or less acknowledge what they've said. I go straight to the point, or rather, I make a statement to suggest that my idea, my point is way better than yours, yeah. And I've noticed it more so creates a gap between I and my colleagues, and I thought it was because maybe I have better ideas and people have less better ideas, and you know, but over time I've realized you think you have better ideas than others, and you more so tend to avoid correction or maybe areas of improvement. You create more so of a gap between you and your colleagues. And now I'm asking, how can I change my ways, or how can I improve basically on matters relationship with my colleagues, on allowing them to speak, allowing myself to listen, and hopefully see and have a common ground and pick up from there, building now on the project and completing it fully and successfully. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I've seen that happen before as well. Like one of my team members is kind of similar as well
Yeah.
in that sense. Like he knows a lot more about a certain marketing area, and feels like it's a lot better than everyone else. But yeah, like he also ran into a similar challenge, which is like because he was like shutting off everyone's ideas, then all of a sudden it creates more friction, and then they just don't share anything anymore. Because they're like, oh, like, what's the point? It's gonna get dismissed, right? So, so I think the best way is like, yeah, I mean, in a current situation you're in, like, I think first like taking ownership helps, like being like, hey, like, I realize like, hey, I know sometimes like maybe I come off as like dismissing of your ideas. Like, I want to apologize for that. I want us
Yeah.
to be able to work together and really value your ideas, and even just being able to say that is, well, it might seem tough to do like ego wise, but it goes a long way, because then all of a sudden people let their guards down and they're like, oh wow, okay, um, like maybe he can change, and it's a sort of something different, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
the first thing I would do if I was in your shoes. And then a big part of like if you know that they have less good ideas than you, um, part of it could also be like, kind of like you want to give them the space to share ideas, be like, hey, like, what do you think? Like, so like, for example, like you could kind of be like the last to speak, but give everyone a chance to share first, and being like, okay, yeah, those are all great points. I also think this, given the objective is to do this, like, why don't we like, find some sort of like middle ground or something there, right? And if their
Yeah.
ideas are pretty off, then I find it helps to like not shut it down, but kind of like educating them, being like, hey, given the goal is to do this, would it be better to do this or this? Like, what do you think?
Mm. Yeah.
Rather than being like, oh, like this idea sucks. Like,
Mm.
so like there's like
So
different ways you can kind of word it so that you can still like receive the ideas, but then also over time, they also start to get better ideas because they're learning from you as well.
mm. Oh, wow. Wow. So basically to acknowledge that the ideas are seen and heard, and give them the room to share. And now if I wanna share mine also, it's better to also take up the last remark and basically make it more of a suggestion. Yeah. uh, Saying,
Yeah.
so you guys are saying we can do this. Uh, yes, we can also do that, and we can also do this. An idea that I have. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's better as opposed to saying your idea isn't valid or you're off topic. Yeah. Yeah, so true. So true. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And for those wondering
Okay.
why I'm in bed, it's currently 1 a.m. in Nairobi, Kenya. But all the same, I'm privileged to be part of this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Wow, 1
joining.
a.m.
Yeah, appreciate you for joining in, especially at 1 a.m. And I know for Janine in Shanghai, it's also super early for you too. So thank you for hosting us at such an early hour.
No worries. Yeah, shout out again to Ben Willis. Sorry, I mispronounced your name again. But I love how you didn't make an excuse. You showed up here, and I think Newton was absolutely worth it. We're going to have one last question by Jonathan. Okay, then we're going to wrap it up. Maybe Newton, you can quickly share your contact details in the chat one more time. that people can connect via email or Instagram, LinkedIn. Just maybe copy paste it one more time in here, or I can do it for you. And for everybody who was saying, like, in 1 hour, 15 minutes, this session is starting on Go High Level. All you got to do is you just like have to click in a calendar. You should normally be able to see it. Remember, it's in the Mastermind session. It's not in the AIpreneurs, okay? So let me just show you this. This is in the AIpreneurs Mastermind, not in the free community, because this is very exclusive just for you guys. Click on a calendar, and here it is, okay? I'll send it in the chat now as well. Okay, Jonathan, last question from you.
Well, thanks very much. It was actually a response for Bernulis. So something that I found was really helpful for me when I had a lot of voices in my team. I started using the term "that's interesting" when someone provided an idea, and it did two things. It reminded me to be interested in other people's ideas, and it also allowed the idea to be a bad idea and yet still thought-provoking. So I found that did quite a good job for helping to curb kind of a natural alpha wanting to dominate at an earlier time in my life. So I thought that might be a helpful suggestion.
Wow,
And that was
thank
it.
you.
Really
Thank
smart.
you. That's
Thanks
interesting.
for sharing, Jonathan. There you go. Yeah, that's really smart. Thanks for sharing, Jonathan. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, everybody, we're wrapping it up. And Newton, I think we're all connected through Newton, through Skool, right? With Newton through Skool. Thank you so much for making time for us. You can see my light has improved. So it's morning time, the sun is up now. You guys are probably wrapping up your evenings, right? So for anybody who doesn't know me yet, my name is Janine Jakob. I've been one of the first AIpreneurs with Atena's community. And sometimes I'm just like happy to come and be a host here if Atena and Tatiana are busy with other things. So yeah, let's give Newton an applause again. I think he has definitely given us a lot of learnings today. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Newton.
Appreciate it all.
Cheers, everybody.